there are two main types of sampling, and first one is probability sampling, second is non-probability sampling. In probability sampling, the first one is simple random sampling, when each unit in the population, when each unit has an equal chance of being selected in the sample. And very important MCQ, we can take the sample by bowl method, by computer, by random number table, and then stratified random sampling. In that much population is heterogeneous. In simple random sampling we have homogeneous population, there is not much variation in the data. And in stratified there is large variation in the data, there is heterogeneity in the data, and we make the homogeneous group. They are internally homogeneous, they are externally heterogeneous. Within variation is less and between variation is much. And then strata is the plural, stratum is the singular. And after that we have systematic sampling. The first in this much k is the sampling interval, that will be capital N over small n. And after that, first, for example, k is equal to 20, we take the first unit from first 20 unit with the simple random sampling, then every kth unit will be selected in systematic. After that we have cluster sampling. And very important concept I will give you, what is the difference between stratified and cluster. In stratified random sampling there is much variation between two strata, but in cluster sampling there is much variation within the cluster and there is less variation between two clusters. A very important stratum we make by ourselves, for example income strata, and in cluster sampling we have naturally built clusters, a very important. Then multi-stage and multi-phase. In these two techniques we collect the sample at different stages. We take the sample from the population at different stages. In multi-phase sampling, if we take the sample for two stages, it is called two-phase sampling, double sampling. And in multi-phase sampling, when we have three phases, it will be multi-phase. And a very important point, in multi-phase the units will be same at every stage, but in multi-stage sampling our units are different at every stage, and at the last stage the units which will be selected, that will be our final sample. And in non-probability sampling we have snowball sampling, which is also called chain or raffle. Then after that we have quota sampling, we have convenience sampling, we have purposive or judgment sampling. Very important points. Then I will discuss some important points for experimental design. It is a plan which we use to check the effect of the treatment on the experimental unit. Treatment, whose effect we are going to check, that can be medicine, that can be any fertilizer. And experimental unit is the place, that will be the land, that will be the human being, that can be animal, bird, on which we are going to check the effect of the treatment. And then three basic principles of experimental design are randomization, replication and local control. And in CR design, which has no restriction, in this we use randomization and replication. Local control is not used in CRD, it is used in RCBD. In CR design, the degree of freedom for treatment will be k-1, for error that will be, for total that will be n-1, for error that will be n-k, and there is no importance of the missing value in CRD. And then in RCBD, when there is large variation in the data, we make the blocks called blocks. And actually in RCBD, block is also called replication. In RCBD, the degree of freedom for treatment will be same, k-1, for total that will be rk-1, and for error that will be r-1 into k-1, a very important one. Then Latin square design. In Latin square design, number of rows, number of columns and number of treatments are equal, and you will have to learn the degree of freedoms too. And after that we have factorial experiment. we take all the combinations of all the levels of all the treatments. For example, 2 power 3, this is the level, this is the factors.